evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. Banks' total credit to the private sector reaches 19.5 billion Omani riyals by end of August 2016. Iraqi forces launch an operation to cut the Daesh group supply lines between its Mosul bastion and neighboring Syria. And Syrian government forces launch a counter-offensive in an attempt to regain control of areas lost to insurgents in the northern city of Aleppo. Those were the headlines, and now for the news in detail. The combined balance sheet of conventional and Islamic banks and other depository corporations taken together provides a complete overview of the financial intermediation taking place in Oman's banking system. The total outstanding credit extended by the other depository corporations stood at 21.7 billion Omani riyals as at the end of August 2016, a rise of 11.4% over the level witnessed a year ago, according to the bulletin released by the Central Bank of Oman, CBO. Credit to the private sector increased by 13.4% to 19.5 billion riyals as at the end of August 2016. The trading value in Muscat securities market (MSM) witnessed a decline last week to reach 9.7 million Omani riyals, compared to 20.5 million riyals the week before. The trading of last week focused on shares of Bank Muscat that reached around 20%, with a trading value of 1.9 million Omani riyals. Meanwhile, the general index of MSM by the end of Thursday lost 65 points to close at 5,497 points. The Sultanate's total number of fixed telephone lines, including postpaid and prepaid lines, public payphones, and others, registered a 5.4% increase by the end of September 2016, according to the latest data released by the National Centre of Statistics and Information. Fixed postpaid connections rose by 7.8% during the period to 350,290 lines, while prepaid lines increased by 11.1% to 62,227 by the end of September this year. Meanwhile, the total mobile subscriber base, post and prepaid in the Sultanate, logged an uptick of 2.1% to exceed 6.78 million subscriptions, compared with 6.64 million recorded at the beginning of the current year. On the sideline of the activities of the 15th Government Future Leaders, the Middle East Excellence Award Institute announced that Hamoud bin Mohammed Al-Azri, General Supervisor of Oman Qaboos website, had won the 6th Middle East Award for Future Leaders Excellence in Knowledge Management in Information Technology sector. The selection stemmed from the Institute's belief in the importance of honouring the best achievements and initiatives and establishing the leadership principles. Al-Azri's winning of this award will support and enhance the role being played by this website devoted to shed light on the biography of His Majesty Sultan Qaboos, being the first among the websites of monarchs and heads of states to be in 30 global languages. The activities of the first Arabia Gulf security exercise commenced in the Kingdom of Bahrain with the participation of security forces from Gulf Cooperation Council countries. The exercise came to stress the will and determination to support stability and peace and protect security in the GCC countries against various security challenges. The event started by inspecting the military parade and participating forces by His Excellency Lieutenant General Rashid bin Abdullah Al Khalifa, Minister of Interior in Bahrain. The exercise also aims to achieve integration among security services in the GCC countries and enhance joint capabilities, especially in the field of terrorism combating. Earlier, the Omani security forces, represented by Special Tasks Command of Royal Oman Police, arrived in Bahrain, equipped with armoured vehicles and light weapons. Still to come in our news bulletin. Around 100 artistic works by basic education students are showcased in the Fine Arts exhibition in Nizwa. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Iraqi paramilitary forces launched an operation today to cut the Daesh group's supply lines between its Mosul bastion and neighboring Syria, opening a new front in the nearly two-week-old offensive. Forces from a paramilitary organization have largely been on the sidelines since the launch of the operation to retake Mosul. They began a push on the town of Tal Afar on the western approach to the city, the only side where ground forces which have advanced from the north, east and south are not yet deployed. The operation was launched from the Sin al-Dhaban area south of Mosul and aimed to retake the towns of Hatra and Tal Abta as well as Tal Afar. The International Organization for Migration said today that more than 17,500 people have fled their homes toward government-held areas since the Mosul operation began. Meanwhile, at least 2 people were killed and 13 wounded today after a suicide bomber targeted a religious procession in Baghdad. The explosion hit Baghdad's western Askan neighborhood. Syrian government forces launched a counter-offensive today under the cover of airstrikes in an attempt to regain control of areas they had lost to insurgents the day before. In the northern city of Aleppo, the offensive came a day after Syrian rebels launched a broad ground attack aiming to break a weeks-long government siege on the eastern rebel-held neighborhoods of Syria's largest city. The insurgents were able to capture much of the western neighborhood where today's fighting was concentrated. Syrian state media said rebels shelled government-held western neighborhoods of Aleppo today, wounding at least 6 people, including a young girl. Rebel shelling of Aleppo yesterday killed 15 and wounded more than 100. The new offensive by insurgents is the second attempt to break the government siege of Aleppo's opposition-held eastern districts, where the UN estimates 275,000 people are trapped. UN Special Envoy Staffan de Mistura has estimated 8,000 of them are rebel fighters. Airstrikes by the Arab-led coalition fighting rebels in Yemen killed at least 10 civilians in a battleground southwestern town today. The raids hit residential buildings in Salo, southeast of Yemen's third city, Taiz. The town of Salo has been the scene of fierce fighting for months as pro-Hadi forces attempt to advance towards Taiz, where the government garrison is almost entirely surrounded by the rebels and dependent on a single supply line from the south. The Ansar Allah rebels have been attempting to block the advance, which would allow reinforcements to be brought directly along the main road from the government's headquarters in the second city, Aden, to the south. Thousands of people have been forced from their homes by the fighting. Today's attack comes as UN envoy Ismail Wild Sheikh Ahmed waits to see if the warring parties accept a new peace proposal presented on Tuesday after previous attempts to enforce a new ceasefire failed. Global car safety organizations launched a car-to-test crash in Ruckersville, Virginia, in a bid to highlight the gap in safety standards across different markets. The 2016 Nissan Versa sold in the United States plunged into a 2015 Nissan Suru sold in Mexico, with the former faring significantly better. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety in the US, which hosted the event, said the 2 baseline sedan models were crashed into each other with a 50% overlap and a combined closing speed of 129 kilometers per hour. The 2015 model is rated 0 stars, whereas the 2016 model is rated good by the Institute. A group of students from Mana Basic Education School in the Governorate of Dakhiliya accomplished 100 artworks. These works were displayed in an exhibition held in the Wilaya of Nizwa. The event attracted many fine art fans. The themes of the works varied, including Omani environment, faces, traditions, and costumes. And now for the general weather forecast around the Sultanate. Clear skies will prevail over most of the governorates, with chances of low clouds and fog early morning and late at night on the governorates of South Sharqiya, Worcester and Baremi. Winds will be northeasterly light to moderate over the coasts of Sea of Oman, while along the rest of the coast it will be southwesterly light to moderate. Seas will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1.25 meters. the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Banks' total credit to the private sector reaches 19.5 billion Omani riyals by end of August 2016. Iraqi forces launch an operation to cut the Daesh group's supply lines between its Mosul bastion and neighboring Syria. And Syrian government forces launch a counter-offensive in an attempt to regain control of areas lost to insurgents in the northern city of Aleppo. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.